Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shumaila. Let's start our next lesson of history. That is from unit number 6 towards Pakistan. Today it's our third lesson from unit number 6. Uh, First, this lesson is about the Government of India Act 1935. First of all, we will start from the introduction. The act marks second milestone towards a completely responsible government in India. It was a lengthy and detailed document having 321 sections and 10 schedules. The Government of India Act 1935 was originally passed in August. Actually, the constitutional problems were already going on in India, and after Simon Commission and Roundtable Conference, this act was presented to solve the issue of the constitutions in India. The act provided for an all India federation. All the provinces were to join the Indian Federation automatically. In case of states, they were given to the option to join the same or not. The federal legislation was to be discameral and consisting of the Federal Assembly and the Council of State. There were two parts. First one, about the Federal Assembly. Here is a summary of Federal Assembly, and there is also a summary of the Council of State Upper House. So, Federal Assembly Lower House would be for 5 years, and 125 from Indian states. 125 would be nominated, and 250 from provinces in direct election on communal line. And details about the Council of State Upper House is that it would be permanent. 104 from states nomination and 156 from provinces and direct election on communal line. 1/3 was to retire every 3 years. So here is detail. Federal Assembly duration was 5 years from the date of its first meeting. On the expiry of that period, it was to be dissolved automatically. Council of State given to be a permanent body of which 1/3 members were to retire after every 3 years. The Indian state were to send 125 members to the Federal Assembly and 104 members to the Council of State. The provinces were to send 250 members to the Federal Assembly and 156 members to the Council of State. And powers of legislature. The powers of the Indian legislature were severely restricted. There were some subjects on which neither the federal legislature or provincial legislature could legislate. They could make any law depending on the provisions of the Government of India Act 1935 for the benefit of British India. They didn't any right to amend or abolish the provision of the 1935 Act. Governor General was empowered to summon a joint setting of the two houses of the federal legislation on any dispute occur between two houses. The functions of the Crown with regard to the Indian states were to be performed in India by his representative, who was the Viceroy himself, and there was no simple division of powers between center and the units. Provision was made for 3 lists: federal list, provincial list, and concurrent list. Federal government was authorized to pass law on the subjects given in their list. The subjects given in the provincial list was within the exclusive jurisdiction of the provincial legislation. As regards the concurrent list, both the federal legislation and provincial legislation could pass laws on the subjects given in the list. If a law was passed by the federal legislation on any subject given in the concurrent list, the provincial legislation could not make any law on the same subject afterwards. The Act of 1935 provided for diarchy at center, and diarchy was which was abolished in the provinces was introduced at the center. Next, certain federal subjects were reserved in the hands of the Governor General to be administered by him with assistance of not more than three councilors. The reserved subjects were defense, external affairs, and ecclesiastical affairs, and the administration of um, turbulence area, and in the administration of other federal subjects, the Governor General was to be aided and advised by a council of ministers whose member was not to extend 10. The federal ministry was to administer all the federal departments except the reserved subjects. In spite of composite nature of the ministry, their responsibility was to be collective. The ministry was to be responsible to the federal legislation. According to procedure, Governor General had to work based on the advices of the ministers. However, Governor General he didn't always act on the advice of ministers. In certain cases, he was to act in the individual judgment, and he was responsible for his own decisions. So, the Act provided for the establishment of a federal court of India with jurisdiction on Indian states and provinces. One Chief Justice and two judges were appointed, and the Act abolished the supremacy of Secretary of State of Indian Affairs. Indian officials they may or may not approach Secretary of State for advices in the administration, and there was no control from London when the governor and the governor general acted according to the consent of their ministers. So these are the details about the Act of 1935. Here is also a home task for you people. You are going to write the answer of this question in your notebooks. Write the salient features of India Act of 1935. You are going to write the answer of this question in your notebook, and there is also a task for you people. You will attempt your summer task of August, and whatever the question is given to you relevant to this topic, you are going to write the answer of that question also in your notebook. I hope you must have got your summer pack of August, and you are also covering your summer tasks regularly. So this is the end of the lesson. Goodbye.